Today's Amud Be'ezras Hashem B'Siyata D'Shmaya is Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. We're holding in the middle of Torah Ches. Till now we've learned in Torah Ches that the shleimus of all chesronis is the inyan of ruach. Ruach is the ability to be mamshich whenever I come across a chesaron, to mamshich that amuna and chiddush olam, that amuna in Hashem's rachmanis, that He's able to mechadish the world. And memela, your mayach ruach, you're able to take a deep breath and confront anything. And that koyach we get from the Torah. And the tzaddikim and tamid are taken from the Torah, and they're mamshech to us. But people who are chilek on the tzaddikim, they also need a way of dealing with the chesronis. So they're also mamshech a ruach. But their ruach is a way of a ruach sa'ara, of a storm wind. Now, they are miskara in us, because they're chilek on the whole musig of ruach chayim tikdusha, of ruach chayim of arichas ruach. So there's a need to be mashpal them. And only a tzaddik who's mevar himself legamri from his midas rois, so he's not scared of them at all, is able to go in. Why? Because since the ruach is in ruach sa'ara, it's a storm wind. So in the short term, they're very matzliach. And yes, they're very matzliach in the short term. Anyone who starts up with them will themselves, they won't be matzliach. So their hatzlacha comes from being mamshech their ruach, from their midas rice. B'makar, all the midas, are come bektusha eshrach hamayim ofer, which are the sharish of all the midas. Their sharish is Shem Hashem, Shem Havaya, Gevavke, and bektusha everything is helig. Just when it's nashtash lamata, it becomes toiv and ra gets mixed up. So when a person learns halacha, or when a tzaddik learns halacha, he's memvarer the toiv and the ra. He takes out the maskana of what's really toiv and kosher, and what's really mutter, and so when he's mevarer that, he's mevarer the yisaydis. So then when he has an asayin in any of the midas rais, and he's oimid bin asayin, he's not nichshel because he took out any potential of ever being nichshel through learning, through being mevarer his midas, through learning halacha. Then he's able to be miskar b'yishayim. And the way you do that is through learning Torah about halacha, dafkin oifin together with tefillah. The tefillah is the way we're mamshech. Tefillah and emuna in the L'mayim Derech HaTeva is how we're mamshech the seichel and the chachma through which we're able to mamshech the bir halacha. Now, they've also said this is any of the four corners of tzitzis, or also any of ruach being mevar the midas. So they said this is a story of Rabbi Bochana, that he was going with a Seichi Yishmael, an Arab, and said, I'm going to show you the Meisei Midbar. The Meisei Midbar, the Rebbe says, are the people that are in the Midbar. They're dead in the Midbar because they have no Ruach. In the Midbar, there's no Ruach Tzfainis, Chazal say. And they're dead because they don't have the Ruach Chaim to Mechayim themselves. And we saw that they're laying, they look like laying down, they look like they're drunk. They're red-faced because they do have a ruach chaim, which they get from Rav, the klipa of Esav, Admoni, and they're laying on their backs with their face up. Their face up because in the meantime they're very matzliach, and one of them his knee was elevated. Knee elevated is also atzlacha, because lack of atzlacha is called in b'kaim koshlis. And you see this Arab, which Rebbe says is a tzaddik, is Meramez on a tzaddik, that even if he's going on a camel, and he's holding a spear, and he wasn't able to touch the knee of the elevated knee. That means that even if he's an ish chesed, he's rachiv gamla, he's riding a gamal, which is a gamal chesed, and he has a Torah with him, he has what's a ruach of the Torah with a mem, the 40 days in which the Torah is given, and still he can't hit that tzlacha. So Rabbi Chana says that he took a piece of the tzitzis. So one of the four tzitzis, Rebbe says that's one of the four midas that Russia was mamshech upon himself in order to mamshech the ruach chaim. Now, when he was paisik, he cut off one of the tzitzis. That means he tried to break that midah ra. But he wasn't matzliach. Why wasn't he matzliach? That's why he wasn't able to go weiter. He wasn't able to move, like in the story. So the tzaddik says to him, maybe you took something from them. So Rebbe explains, what does it mean he took something from them? That means maybe you still have a little bit of that midah, because we said the only way you'd be matzliach to break the tziner of the Ruach Chaim of the Rasha is if you have no shaykhs whatsoever, even in potential, to any of their midas rice. So maybe you have a little bit from them. Because we have a tradition that if you take anything from them, we won't be able to leave them. Which means if you have any midah in you, any potential for being nechshel midas rice, then you won't be able to get out and get away from the hatzlach of the Rasha. So Rabbi Bachan says he gave back the tzitzis, which means he gave back the little bit of the chiza of the ra, and then he was matzliach. And that's pshat in the pasuk, which the story is gebaytan arisi minei ma'ir zav the gula rosha. So arisi minei zav, I saw the Torah, which is minei zav. It's a golden menorah because the Torah is nechmadim mizahav. The gula arosha, Rashi says there's like a mayan, which is coming in the head of the menorah, which means the mayan of the base Hashem tefillah, which is coming over the menorah, which has shiva nereseh. Those are the neshamas which are growing in the gan. The shiva mitzakas is 7 times 7 mitzakas. That's memtes iris. That's the arla asid, and they have 2 olives. Rashi says it's 2 trees. The chayil, the ma'isa, which means it's toiv ra, which are together, and the pasuk says, Zerubbabel tells the malach ma'ele, and that the way you're matzliach is not with chayil and not with koyach, but with ruach chaim. The ruach of arichas apayim, that's how you're matzliach, and that's in koyach. That's what the Navi is saying, that Rebbe explains that the Navi is telling Zerubbabel, who is then a Tzaddik Adar, which they're showing they're coming to Mevatas Avodah, and the Zechariah is telling him, that the way you'll be matzliach against them is not b'chayil, not b'koyach, only with Ruach Chaim. The Ruach Chaim that the Tzaddik is mamshech, that's machnia, that's mapel, all the soyim. Miyat hagadol of Zerubbabel lemisha, that all the moinim and soinim they become lemisha through the inyan of Ruach Chaim. Now we said before the Ruach Chaim comes from the Torah. Ruach Elokim mechepes upon moyim, and moyim is the Torah, and that's why by Mitzrayim the Rebbe says before Kabbalas Torah they had nowhere to get ruach from because they didn't have the Torah. That's why it says that in Mitzrayim they had koitzer ruach because they didn't have that inyan of Arichas Apayim. And that's why it says koitzer ruach about them, which is a hepa for Arichas Apayim. And that's what it says after Mitzias Mitzrayim, there's a milah v'chasaron. So that's also the inyan of the malapum, the nekuda of a vav with a yud. Why? Because the yud is keneged the asar fikim, the 10 types of pulses, keneged sesa dibris, which are those 10 types of pulses are connected to 10 types of ruach. The ruach of pulses which comes from the Torah. The Torah is a seres adibris. The ruach chaim, which is in the Torah, that's the yud. The ruach, that's the yud, and through that you malach chasaron with the vav. The vav is a malach chasaron. That's what pasuk says. After you have Mitzvah Mitzrayim and you mekabel the Torah, then you say harcha picha amaleu. Harcha picha, the milui peh. The harchavas peh is a milui peh. That's the malapum, which means a malei peh, a peh malei, and that's malach chasaron. That because after you have B'tzitz Mitzrayim and you have the Torah, then you have the Ruach Chaim, through which you can mashmach chasaron. And that's why after B'tzitz Mitzrayim, that's why the Pasha of B'tzitz Mitzrayim is also Pasha of Tzitzis, because we said that Tzitzis is a way of mevatel the Ruach of the Rosh Mamshach the Ruach Chaim Tiktusha, and that's also the inyan that only happens after B'tzitz Mitzrayim and after we're makabel the Torah. And Nosson says the Rebbe also spoke about all the inyanim in this Torah, about the 12 hours of the day, 12 hours of the night, and the different chalakim, that this tadraf chalakim of day and night, And each one of these hours has a tzerif of a Shem Hashem, and each of the Tetraf Chalakim also has. Hashem Yimamshech tomorrow to finish off Torah Ches.